$199. Wow.
What?
$199.
Yeah. That's the mic.
Testing. 1, 2. Testing.
Got a weird start. It's really my fault.
Because you forgot your computer.
Forgot it.
Um.
Can you guys hear us okay? Because this is as good as it's going to get today. I'm in off season. You can't see me. Damn it.
No one wants to see you.
I know no one wants to see me.
All right, so we need to get the link out.
Oh, garbage, man.
I can do it. I can do it.
Just do it. There we go. Sound is okay. All right, great. Let me get my stuff up, and we'll be ready to rock and roll. Stand by. Josh, how's Hawaii? Hawaii.
It was amazing. I'm still not fully back for sure. It was.
Check.
I was only there a week. It wasn't enough. It was not enough. Not long enough. All right. So.
You went for a wedding, right?
Yeah. So yeah, we had like 2 days of wedding stuff, and then I did it as much as I could the other days, but there's so much to do there.
All right.
Hold on one second. I'm gonna tweet it now.
We'll throw the link out there. Sorry, we're gonna delete like half this episode.
Is this all on the audio?
We've got like 3 of the same. Yeah, we got 3 of the same titled episodes. One lasts like 14 seconds. The other one lasts like a minute and a half.
14 seconds. That's probably the best one we've done. All right, I put it up. I'll get them to retweet it.
All right, almost done, guys. Almost ready to go. So sorry, this is my fault. Just like everything else in life.
Everything. Just Atlanta
My
United
bad.
related, not everything in life.
My bad. Give me a few more seconds.
Make sure you retweet it too.
Few more seconds. All right. You ready? What's up, Atlanta? This is the Mouse and South podcast brought to you by Dirty South Soccer in the Palatial 680 The Fan Studios. I am Eric Quintana. Next to me, Mr. Sam. Ooh. Mr. Josh Bagriansky. Josh, how you doing?
Are you going to keep that?
No, that's
no.
That's here to stay, my friend.
Okay, great. Well, I am Josh, not Sam.
Not often you get
Sam's not
mistaken
here.
for Sam.
I'm not sure whether to insult you or I'm also so insulted that
I was gonna say Mr. Sam Josh.
If you, Mr. Sam Josh.
That's what I was gonna say.
I could be both if you wanted. I could play the role of both. I can do a pretty good Sam. I can be pretty annoying.
All right, let's try.
You know that.
For 5 seconds, let's do it. Go.
5 seconds.
Be your best Sam. Be your best Sam.
No, we got to get into the conversation.
Too much stuff to talk about.
The thing about being your best Sam is when you go out of platitude, blah blah blah, whatever. Was that good? Was that good? I'll start screaming later.
We're just trolling on Sam right now.
Of course, he's not here.
Much like Darren Eales trolled on all Atlanta United fans.
Good transition.
Who have been talking all that mess about desperately wanting to hear some news about signings. And there it is. You got the best troll job from Atlanta United president Darren Eales, I think, trolling his own fans, who I think for the most part, 50% of you have no idea how the front office stuff works. I'm not saying I'm an expert.
50%.
I obviously don't work in a front office. But my goodness. You don't talk about these things for a reason. Anyways, Darren Eales with a great troll job. And leading into one of like 15 pieces of news of the day, which I had no idea.
This is going to be a long long
I had no
podcast.
idea this was going to this day was going to play out like that. I went from MLS draft to hopping on a press conference call to reading about more rumors for Atlanta United to trying to catch up with guys in South America that I've reached out to in regards to Villasanti and
we'll get to them in due
Arzavendia
time.
and the Rodriguez kid from Uruguay.
But so the tweet was, for those that haven't seen it, I mean, I think I know what you're talking about because he's holding up the sign, right? Of we finally
signed someone. Get yourself
it's kind of a troll.
We finally got one. Pour yourself a frosty one. And it's the dude. It's the meme of the dude holding the sign with whatever message you want. Atlanta United signing a player.
Chris Armas blew it. I like it. If he had that sign, we should start a GoFundMe campaign to have him hold that one up. But I mean, it's not totally a troll job, but it's kind of cool that he's in touch with the fan.
He's spoken for.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, but I think it's good to know that he's involved and he sees what's out there and all that too.
I'm excited. He's not. He's good enough to know when to poke at his own fans.
Yeah, I mean,
things are going to happen. Like, relax, people. Things are going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess this is kind of. I mean, we're going to get into the specifics of transfers, but if you paint it with a broad brush, I mean, you've got 40 days to play your first competitive match as we speak here, Eric, and that's plenty of time to get a deal done. And we're going to talk about Anton Walkes in a little bit. That's somebody who already fills not one, but two, maybe even three needs for you from a depth standpoint. So already the wheels are in motion, I think, filling in the gaps. And I would say the other thing, the trend I kind of see if I look at, and we talked about this a little bit last month before we took off for the holidays, was that you're seeing a better synergy, I think, between what Frank de Boer wants and what the front office is getting. And that's why, number one, you saw so many players get released in the first place. And now we're starting to see the first signs of their replacements in terms of Brooks Lennon or an Anton Walkes. I'm not saying those guys are going to be critical pieces for the team this year. They might, but certainly you can see how they fit into Frank de Boer's system and how they fit into specific needs. And I think there'll be a lot more to come. And certainly in terms of the quality of player, I think you'll see that continue to increase throughout the transfer window as well.
Not just the players that they've signed, but the players that they're rumored with. It's clear that the plan is it's starting to come together a little bit. I think you heard from Carlos Bocanegra today about how they want to sign 3 or 4 players the next week. I think a lot of the waiting has a lot to do with the international break, which you have no idea whose decision that was. If you're complaining about that, you have no idea whose decision that was. That could have 100% have been the players. That might be completely out of the control of Atlanta United. So don't get mad at Atlanta United for seemingly pushing until the last or waiting till the last minute to make a move like this when they've clearly been in talks for a long time. These aren't things that happened overnight. These aren't things that happened in the last week. They've been following these players. They've been talking to players, to coaches, to agents, to all sorts of craziness happens behind the scenes. Just because it looks like they're waiting till the last minute to actually pull the trigger on a lot of these guys doesn't mean they actually are. By the way, the transfer window opened like 2 days ago.
8 days ago, but
8
days
ago.
I mean, for the sake of
accuracy, wasn't it? I thought it was the 7th.
Oh, it opens on the 1st in Europe. Oh, does MLS do the 7th?
No, I'm talking about in South America.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe you're right.
Yeah, I was thinking about
the 7th.
Paraguay and Uruguay.
I see it to you on. Okay, I got you. Yeah. I see.
It opened on the 7th, so it's not like they could have done much anyway. The conversations were still had.
Yeah.
But again, it's not like they can rush this stuff as soon as the transfer window opens. I mean, they could, but again, you have 2 Paraguayan players for the U23 teams. It could very well likely be that they wanted to take part in this tournament. Yeah. Or in these matches.
Well, I mean, and also you
can't get mad at Atlanta United for something they have absolutely no control of.
It's just par for the course stuff. I mean, like it's pretty uncommon, particularly for a team that's competing on multiple fronts and brings in kind of bigger money players. It's not at all uncommon for that team to go into the first day of preseason. And we're not even there yet. Yeah. A little bit unsettled with the roster. That's not uncommon at all because you have the ability to bring in players that can fill in as a like-for-like replacement or whatever. So, I mean, I think if you look at it, I don't really see that frustration that widespread, but certainly I think if you're panicking about that the team was going to go into the season with the, I think, 19 outfield players they have on the roster right now, I think this signing, and coupled with a lot of the smoke on a lot of other guys, shows that you're clearly mistaken. And I think the other good thing is that, like I said earlier, the signings we've seen thus far match up to the system Frank de Boer plays and fit specific needs for the team. So hopefully you see more of that as the month goes on with players that can fill in the starting center back role, in maybe a starting center midfield role, and what have you.
All right, let's start with the let's just start from the beginning of the day. Well, at least as early as this news actually came out.
Cool.
You have Atlanta in the MLS draft, drafting Patrick Nielsen in the with the 23rd pick. He is a player out of Copenhagen, so I don't think he's going to take an international spot, but considering he's been in the United States for a while.
I have really nothing to say about
me either. I don't really. The one thing I will say is that it shouldn't be broadcast anymore.
Oh, I love that. It's just such a
such a train wreck.
The highlight
train
tapes.
Wreck.
Who picked the highlight tape?
I'm sitting here thinking, my gosh, someone's getting paid to produce
one of the highlights of Nielsen. What's his first name? Patrick Nielsen is just him like lining up a clearance header and heading it straight into the ground like 5 yards away from him. It's not good.
I think there was one. There was one play. There was one highlight where there's a kid on the ground in pain or injured or whatever, and then there's a guy who he's not even facing the goal. I guess scissor kicks it or side kicks it, hits the side of his foot. Clearly didn't mean to go into goal.
It's a mess. And I just also
that's not a highlight. That's a fun little whoops.
It's just a hilarious. And Matt Doyle has done his research on these guys. If you look back at MLS draft, it was 2 years ago. Once you get past the top 10, you're hardly even looking at professional players, much less MLS or USL players. It's really a kind of a pointless thing. But I do like that the club said they had identified him a while ago.
Yeah.
So it's good to know. I mean, you had your eye on this guy for a while. And also, I think it's interesting that if you look at one maybe early trend with Atlanta United's draft picks is that they're going for guys that developed overseas before coming to the U.S. For college. If you look at Gressel, Nielsen, and Asiedo as well last year. So I think if you looked at that draft room, Frank DeBoer, I guess Frank DeBoer just kind of sitting back. Not really involved in the discussion. I think he understands this is not a player that he's probably going to have to really have much dealings with his first season because they're not going to be on the field.
You think him and Darren have a conversation before they walk in the room? Look, this is a formality. Just sit there.
Definitely. I mean, that was the most staged scene ever. The way they had the glasses of water in front of them, and then DeBoer just had some neatly aligned paper in front of him that never moved once the entire time. They kept coming back to it. So
now, hey, look, Nashville played it up a little bit though. More than a little bit.
Well, it's an expansion. It makes sense. I mean, your first season.
They had a tour bus of fans that followed.
Yeah, and I love that.
They went to the house of the draft pick.
There's a lot more excitement in Nashville for the MLS draft, although not for season tickets, it appears. But there's more excitement for MLS draft than there is in Atlanta, just because they haven't played a game yet.
Well, welcome to the club, Patrick Nielsen. Hopefully we are talking about the same way we're talking about you the same way we talk about Greg.
We drafted other people too, probably. Or is there more picks tomorrow for us?
Maybe it's tomorrow.
I have no idea. I really pay no attention to this. It's amazing.
I had it on the background at work just to watch the train wreck.
Oh, I mean, the whole thing was great. I was at home watching. It was.
You had David Beckham on a conference call with his draft pick.
Oh, it was awesome.
That was being
the way they try to play it up. They put the wrong scarf on the one draft pick. It's such a disaster. And they should. I wish they still called it Super Draft because it's almost like an ironic. It's become like an ironic television at this point.
It's definitely not super.
Absolutely not.
All right. After that, you get the release or the announcement of the release of Don Pereira and the extension of John Gallagher to Aberdeen on loan, which. Dion Pereira is a little from what I understand it maybe you probably read it online at this point, but it might be a case where he just wants to go back home. Is a case where he just wants to go back home, be closer to his family, get back to England. Gallagher, I think enjoys his time at Aberdeen. He's getting substantial playing time. I think he's probably going to develop better there than he would maybe here with Atlanta United too. So good moves on their part. I can't really not much to say because I'm. And I think much as I wanted Dion Pereira here, I don't know how much.
I think he's easily replaceable, and you can find a better player. I think in the end, when you looked at Pereira, he was kind of thrust into a situation where he was forced to play last year because of injuries. He did okay at first, but to be honest, I think if you look at him, he's a wing player It doesn't have a lot of pace. He can't really play the wing back spot for you if you want to go to a back three. I have no issue whatsoever with that. And then that's another guy I think that was here last year that maybe Frank DeBoer did. The front office and him and the synergy was still not quite there yet.
Right.
And you bring in a guy in Prayer that maybe he doesn't really want, and he thinks, yeah, I can go out and pay a guy, $65,000 this year that fits my system a little bit better and replace that piece.
Then we had the conference call with Carlos Bocanegra, which was a surprise, I think, at least to me, because I didn't get that email till real late.
Oh, you get emails? Aren't you important?
When you're part of the club, Josh.
I'm not part of the club. I've been called League Media, but I don't get any of these emails.
On LGP, nothing officially has been finalized.
Jesus.
Although you've seen them with
it's done. It's
Joel
done.
stuff and
is that true?
In Mexico. Here's the thing. I look at that picture that I think everyone's seen circulated, and I'm like, I don't know how old that picture is, or if it's even real. It's a weird looking picture.
There's some tattoos. I mean, there's some tattoos in it, right? So I feel like you can feel, if you're watching on YouTube, feel free
I know
to
that there was a video in you can't see his face.
It's like a jersey reveal or something, right?
I think that
was the player's jersey, and you see his neck. And
I saw people complaining on Twitter. It's like, just announce it. Why aren't you going to announce it? Why don't you just go ahead and announce it and get it over with?
Because of the law.
There are reasons you can't do that.
Legal reasons.
There are reasons you can't do that.
When you sign a contract for your job, they don't just say, you got it, you're here, like right after the interview, right after they decide they want you.
This isn't like telling your friend you
got to fill out paperwork.
You bought a car before you actually bought a car. That's not the same sort of deal.
But this is one, it just seems done.
Sure, it does. It seems done.
Yeah. But you're right. The reason it's not done is because it isn't done.
If tomorrow he breaks his leg, I don't think it's going to be done.
Well, and also, who knows? There's stuff with agents, and it's not done until it's done.
I just don't understand why people are upset about this.
I don't know. There's just nothing to talk about until today. I think you're going to hear a lot.
I'm sitting here. I'm sitting here watching Twitter, and I'm watching people get mad about LGP not being announced. Why there's no news about.
I think a lot of it's
first
ironic.
Of all, they get the news.
I don't think everyone's that mad.
They get the news, and then they complain that it's not the news that they want.
Well, this is how it works. Are you familiar with American society? How we digest information here? Some people are mad about it.
I'm in a mood today. I just want to complain.
Yeah, you're really upset about people on Twitter. Look, we just came out of a dead period. There wasn't a lot to talk about. So they're getting mad about that. Or getting mad about, if someone stole someone's scarf idea. I don't know if you saw that one. But then as soon as this walk signing hits, I think the discussion is now shifting towards playing matches, who fits in where. And I think you're going to start to see the news. And basis on nothing, but I think you're going to start to see more players come.
We'll talk about it here. We'll talk about it here in a little bit. But I don't know that Walks is a regular starter. He might be a contributor.
I think it's a depth piece.
Yeah. Which is weird because when he left, he was a starter.
We're getting to him, right?
And a little bit, yeah.
There's a rundown I was sent.
Carlos Bocanegra on the rumors and the potential signings to come. He said we hope to bring 3 or 4 players. Hope to announce the next week or so. So that's good news. Again, you're hoping that these things are finalized. I'm hoping that these talks, these rumors are kind of in the same sort of wheelhouse as what's going on with LGP, where everyone kind of knows it's official, where you're just waiting for the I's to be dotted, the T's to be crossed, all that good stuff, and we're talking about getting these guys in early. The Paraguayans, I'm not so sure. By the way, I'm convinced we're getting both.
Yeah, I think so too.
2 players, $7 million total. I think that's okay.
Yeah, I agree. I totally agree. You're just seeing some of the normal kind of smoke around that surrounds a transfer, and sometimes we saw the same thing with Barco. We saw the same thing with PT, where he was kind of last second things. Oh, it's not done. It's not done. I don't think it says much.
If you happen to listen to the interview I did with Roberto Rojas,
that's a must listen.
He mentions that there's probably not a great chance that, based on what he's hearing, there's probably not a great chance that both end up in Atlanta. I just have a feeling, considering the need that Atlanta has at both positions, that both of these rumored players fill, I gotta think they're going after both, and they're going for both.
Can you give me?
If you're talking about $7 million for 2 players, that's not a bad deal, especially for what you're getting in Villasanti, who I think is going to be. I'm not gonna say a better version of Nagby going forward. Not so much defensively or controlling the midfield.
That's what. Yeah, that's.
But you're gonna get more contribution in him going forward.
And you could play him in a. That's a guy that I think, particularly in the modern game, we saw PT really struggle in the 4-3-3, playing as the highest center midfielder because that player has to play defense in today's game. We saw him do much better when they put him on the right wing and he can kind of float inside with much more freedom. Now you have a player potentially in Villasanti, a more attacking version of Nagby, better in the final third. He could also play as the highest, the quote unquote center attacking midfielder in a 4-3-3, but really he's more of an 8, almost similar to how Miguel Almiron would play that position.
Carlos Bocanegra also saying that he feels that they will be the players, the 3 to 4 new signings will be ready for CCL. Goal is to get them in, get them ready by day 1. They're a little behind schedule, but hopefully they'll have a full preseason under their belt. I'm not really worried because anyone you get is going to be in basically, other than Mesa, is going to be in season.
God, so many. Yeah, right.
Or at least the in form. They're not going to be. I mean, they're going to have to get adjusted to Atlanta United, the way that Atlanta United plays and whatnot. But it's not like it's not like they haven't played for 3 months or anything like that. On Julian Gressel, Carlos Bocanegra said having conversations internally about contract, and that they expect him to report first day of preseason. We'll see how everything goes with the CBA. I saw if you go to the MLSPA website, you can see a list, basically a list of the demands, accommodations, and when it comes to travel and stuff like that.
This is really the elephant in the room that hasn't been reported on much. Is we might not
even have to worry about.
Very well, maybe delayed. I don't know why we're here. Let's play a game till May.
Let's dive into this a second, because wouldn't this benefit Atlanta United if they could take the first 2 months
and just play CCL?
Just on CCL?
Absolutely, conspiracy.
And then walk into MLS regular season, shortened or whatever.
Conspiracy in favor of Atlanta United.
Shortened or whatever you want to, what have you. And you're looking at an Atlanta United who's played a few games, who's had much more practice time.
I am pro work stoppage now.
I don't even know how that works when it comes to CCL and it being able to train.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because if there's a work stoppage, you would assume that means nothing's happening.
But I think if you're, I have no idea, but if you're training for CCL, quote unquote CCL in a separate competition, I feel like
are there designated CCL practices?
Well, I just feel like it would fall under a different occupation. You're refusing to play MLS matches.
You're freelancing.
Because your problem is with MLS.
You're freelancing for CCL.
Yes, I'm freelancing a bit here too because I have no idea, and that's why I really no one is talking about this, because we don't know what's going on. I mean, it's pretty much the same thing we said a month ago. We know that there's a huge fundamental gap in what the players want. They want a lot of basic things that professional players get. We talk about charter flights for every match.
Yeah.
Aside from the fact that obviously, I mean, looking at a player like Julian Gressel alone, you're going to want to inject more money for teams to be able to spend on players. So
free agency,
you don't get situations like that as often. So I mean, there's a lot to be discussed here because the league is at a point where it's kind of making that jump towards. I don't want to say a proper professional league, but you kind of get what I mean. And this is kind of the CBA that's going to determine whether it goes in that direction or not.
Asked if Barco and Pitti, Carlos Bocanegra said that he expects Barco and Pitti to be here through preseason. Asked if the club could sign a midfielder. That could be the case, yes, which says nothing, but answers the question at the same time.
Well, that's classic Bocanegra. That's why
I'm curious about. We expect Barco and Pitti to be here through preseason. You would if you were confident about
him not going to the
qualifiers. This makes me think they're in negotiations with someone. Potentially in negotiations with someone.
That might have to do with also, though, the fact that the Olympic qualifying tournament is going on, and Atlanta United refused to release him.
But they already knew that.
I don't know. Yeah, I guess you're reading between the lines. So yeah,
I don't know. It's a shot in the dark. I'm just.
And of course, you had the price tag, 30 million euros, I believe it was, which is like 33.5 million.
By the way, they can 100% say we expect Barco and Pitti to be here through preseason and be completely honest and still be working on getting a deal done.
Oh yeah,
because if they don't think the deal's gonna get done,
well, all we can do is speculate based on what we see reported. I mean, so we'll see what happens. But I don't know. We'll see what happens with Barco. I love that the club put the high price tag on him. I said it a month ago. 25 was too low. set your sights really high with this guy because
You actually got dunked on for that too a little bit.
I did. Well, what a surprise! What a surprise!
You actually had a problem with this when the preseason schedule came out. The next thing Bocanegra's quoted as saying here is they're headed to Mexico to emulate a CCL type trip.
Yes. Okay. So that is okay. So that is kind of what
because
I
you were kind of weird. You were kind of curious as to why.
Well, it makes sense. Why? I just don't understand why you do it right before you go. So you're basically going Birmingham. You're there. You're playing after your camp at IMG. You're going to Mexico, and you're there for 1 day, I guess, to rest. 2 days of training. Then you fly back to Atlanta. Then you're in Atlanta for like 3 or 4 days, and then you go to Honduras.
You're not as animated as you were in the Slack. Can I tell them what you wrote in the Slack?
Absolutely. I still stand by it.
WTF are we going to Mexico? Back to Atlanta, then to Honduras?
That's what I just said. I guess I was a little more succinct in our Slack chat. But I don't understand.
Am I missing anything?
Yeah, yes. Am I missing anything? Like, you could do this at another. It's weird.
Look,
it's 3,500 miles, Eric, of extra travel right before you go down there to a CCL Leg 1. It's great to, I guess, duplicate being fatigued, but not if you have to then go do the whole thing a week later because the fatigue is going to hurt you from the previous trip.
I'll give you an example. I did my first international flight in like 18 years over the summer when I went to Uruguay. I would do it much differently the second time around had I had like a practice run when it came to how early I got to the airport, how I sat in the seat itself, what I brought on the plane itself,
okay,
what I wore on the plane.
Right.
Now these guys are obviously a little more experienced when it comes to flying internationally.
It's an interesting comparison,
but if you apply that sort of logic to everything that goes on when it comes to training for a match, when it comes to preparing for a match that's international like this, I could see where they were like, let's do a test run here.
But they're also not even playing a match. They're not even playing. They're just going there and training for 2 days. What is going on? It might be there's no way this is the correct decision to me.
Basically,
if another team has done this before and this is precedented, feel free to educate me. As I said when I was initially upset about this. But I've heard about teams trying to duplicate the experience, but not this way. Not basically making it where you're doing leg 0 and leg 1 both on the road within a week of each other.
Gotta get used to it, man.
I guess it's a little over a week, but gotta get used to it.
I don't know. Maybe I see it differently because
it seems ridiculous.
I can understand why they would want a lot of these players if they say they're going to take it seriously and they're going to really compete in TCL this year and they're going to really go for it. I can see why they would want to spare no expense and really preparing themselves and to be in that environment.
I just
to have to go through all of that. My feeling is I don't know how different that is from just if you break it down to its basic form. I don't know how much different that is to traveling anywhere else than say the United States. Maybe the altitude, but you're going to find situations in the United States where that's the issue. I don't know why. These players are going to be used to
going to Guadalajara, of course, yeah.
Unless you're doing it on a quick turnaround, I don't know.
That is the southern part of Mexico, so in that sense, it makes sense that that's closer to Honduras geographically, right. Probably climate-wise. I'm imagining
that I can understand.
I just think
there's other ways. So I take your point in the travel. You don't want all that needless travel if you don't have.
I don't think so.
If you don't have to take it.
Feel free to educate.
There are parts of the United States where you can kind of emulate that same sort of scenario without all the extra travel. But maybe it's also a team bonding experience where they're going to go to the beach and they're going to have fun. I don't know.
Well, I think that's supposed to happen at camp in Florida before they go to the other camp.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but maybe that's going to be part of it. I don't know.
I just want to believe
nice little trip before the
that there's some sort of scientific that there was a lot of thought that went into this, or that this is precedented, that a team has done something like this before taking a long trip. So soon to taking the trip and then returning home and then flying back. I would love to know if that's been done before, because if you're doing this and there's really no precedent for it, you better have some good scientific medical data to back up that it's smart to take your players from I guess they'd be going from Bradenton to Guadalajara back to Atlanta during a time when you're already fatigued. It's already preseason, and then staying in Atlanta for a few days and jetting off for your CCL game in Honduras. It doesn't, to me, that doesn't make any sense. And I don't remember a team doing anything like this. So they better hope this works. Because if you come out, I think, with a performance similar to Herediano, leg one, which I think was much more explainable by contextual circumstances. You had such a short off season. You're trying to integrate PT on the fly. Almiron's gone. You have injuries. You're starting Bello at left. This year, if that happens, that type of performance, I think it's going to be specifically because of fatigue and a lack of match sharpness. So why would you potentially hurt that by flying off to Mexico for 2 days and then crisscrossing the continent just to play your first leg?
I gotta think that there's a method to the madness here. I gotta think that they want their players.
I want to hear more about
it. Whatever the climate, the environment is going to be down there. They want their players to be exposed to that, so that when they have to actually face that in a real game, in a real match scenario, at least they've experienced it. They know what to expect. They're not gonna get hit right in the face with it.
And maybe it's better to do it a week before, so your body kind of remembers how that feels. I don't know, again, but no one has told me otherwise.
We'll get our resident scientist on this.
Who is that?
All right,
because
Dr. Pepper.
I love y'all listeners, but I don't think there's many scientists.
Someone explain it to us if you know the answer to the question.
In fact, why don't you just explain everything and we can just leave?
I'll go find Dr. Pepper.
Dr. Pepper, very good.
Officially, Anton Walkes is back, which was kind of a surprise to a lot of people. I think that it's nice. It's a nice depth piece for Atlanta United to get. One, they know what he is as a player. You know exactly what you get in Anton Walkes. How he can contribute. You know that he's been playing regularly overseas for the last year. You know that he's familiar with everything that's going on outside of what Frank DeBoer has asked his team to do in the last year. So you know exactly what he's getting. I think he is a fantastic piece, because if you were to have issues at left back, and you had to use him, you don't skip a beat.
At right back.
At right back. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You don't skip a beat. You don't have the issues where we had last year, where we're kind of
forced into a back three.
Where we're like plug and play, and
you were forced to play a wing back.
Sign of the cross and hope it works.
Yeah,
exactly. So you want to avoid those situations as much as possible.
Imagine
with
that.
Someone like Anton Walkes.
Have a backup right back at the start of the season.
With someone like Anton Walkes, you've got a good solid backup that you can count on.
And you can also play a little center back. And I didn't know this until actually one of our listeners filled me in on Twitter today, that he played some of the six. Yeah, played some CDM at Portsmouth. So that's 3 positions that Atlanta United need depth in. But I do agree that if he's going to get a lot of minutes, right back is probably the position where he would excel the most.
Do you want to get into the Paraguayan complexion?
I do, and you spoke with Roberto, so that was such a good interview. So I would love to hear more.
It's a standalone episode. Go check it out. Not plugging my stuff. I just want you to hear what Roberto has to say about stuff.
And like a true insider has sources in Paraguay. We're very lucky to be able to speak with him. Even though he makes me feel like I've done nothing with my life. He's like 21 years old.
Yeah, something crazy like that. I feel bad.
He has sources
I had no idea if he had done this before, so I asked him, "Is this your first radio interview?"
You did?
I did. I wanted to make sure.
He works for BN Sport.
Believe me, there are people in the industry I work in.
Yeah, but I see interviews
that don't know how to do interviews.
This guy is big time, man. You got to go listen to that interview.
I wasn't sure.
Eric says, "Hey, I've never done this before."
And I was pleasantly surprised that he knew how to, because I knew I was going to ask him stuff that I knew he wasn't going to be able to answer directly. I know he knows the answer. I know he knows more than he's telling me.
Yeah.
He has to kind of work around being direct.
Sure, of course.
So my concern was, I just didn't want him. I didn't know if he had done these things before, so I didn't want him to be like, "Yeah, I can't talk about that," and that be it. That's an awkward interview, and I've had that happen. Really?
And then some people, just don't do well at the microphone.
No, but he's fine. He's perfect. He's awesome. Go listen.
Yeah, I agree. And top. And again, Sky with sources in South America. Follow him on Twitter at Roberto Rojas 97. So he'll have all kinds of cool transfer rumors you can check out. Atlanta United, other clubs. Great follow.
All right. So at first it was Matias Villasantios coming over from Cerro Porteño. Then we find out it's not Villasanti. It's this other guy, Santiago Arzmendia.
I was waiting for you to say that name before I even say. What is it?
Arzamendia.
Okay, so you don't know. Either.
Arzamendia.
Great.
No, I get him confused.
Yeah, that's there.
Arzamendia. That's how you say it.
Arzamendia.
Arzamendia.
Okay.
Arzamendia.
What's his first name?
Santiago Arzamendia.
So they're both Santi. So I can't call it Santi.
So then you got Villasanti coming first. Then he's not coming. It's Arzamendia, and then instead it ends up being that potentially both could come from Cerro Porteño. And the kind of the thing that I think people were misunderstanding was maybe the transfer fee, the potential transfer fee. It's $7 million for both. Not
You've
each,
been big on these
but both.
misunderstandings today.
Yeah.
You've been enraged on Twitter during our break, haven't you?
No. Well, no.
You got to find a way to vent about this outside.
I don't get as bugged about official front office.
But anyway, sorry to cut you off. It's $7 million, right? But that's $7 million for
$7 million
each.
for both.
Yeah. So
not each. You're not paying
$3.5
$14 million
each.
for either one.
Although it's weird.
I don't think it's
what's
gonna
the split on
but
that?
I don't think it's gonna be the split like that. I think and it's not split down the middle. I think Villasanti is obviously gonna be worth a lot more because
That's
he's
my
got more
thought.
upside,
Yeah,
more
attacking
potential.
players.
Exactly. Arzamendia is.
He's not even on the team yet, so we don't have to pronounce.
Have you
it right.
seen his highlights?
No, I haven't.
I'm impressed.
Really?
I'm impressed.
Okay, give me the player profile there.
He seems to have really good timing. He's got the long throw in. He's fast.
It's a long throw in.
He can get up the field. Yeah, he's like a better, like a much. You know how Breck Shea would run up the field, bump the field, and would try to do things up the field. I feel like Arzamendia could actually do these things.
He could actually do it
and really draw the attention of the crowd and really pull people to him and be recognized as kind of a force on that left side.
Yeah.
So I loved him, but I loved even more what I saw out of Villasanti. I'm so curious to see what a more attacking Nagby would have looked like with the players that
if you
Atlanta
think about
has.
it, a more attacking Nagby is very similar to Miguel Almiron in terms of being able to do the things in the attacking player that Nagby couldn't.
But there'd be the expectation that he does more, that he kind of hangs back a lot more like a Nagby did as opposed to go forward.
Definitely.
But he would have that freedom to go forward.
And you wouldn't see
like Nagby did. He just didn't really do it.
And was a guy at one point we're wondering is he ever even going to score a goal for Atlanta United? So you would like to have a little bit more goal scoring prowess from that position is a nice bonus.
I'm a fan. Last we've heard it doesn't really look like it's. Atlanta United says in the next week or so. I think it might be longer than that.
And a big part of this also that we haven't mentioned is Cerro Porteño are broke. Yeah, they need to cash.
Evidently, this money is basically just going. The money they get out of these two players is basically going just to pay off debt.
Yeah. So I was sorry to hear that because I followed them a little bit because of Miguel Almiron as a club, just a little bit. So you hate to see that, but it's good for Atlanta United, and I think that's the reason also that you saw. I forget which one of them was, but they were linked with MLS clubs in general initially.
Villasanti was linked with Atlanta United. Then he wasn't linked with Atlanta United.
But with a club in MLS, right?
Right. So both of them were always, I think.
So it goes to show you people are trying to go poach players from Cerro Porteño.
Yeah, what Roberto was saying was that both of them were coming to Atlanta United or to MLS. It's not really clear which one's going to Atlanta United. I'm confident both are coming.
It would be so awesome to have a crazy attacking left back.
I'm curious
too. That's such a cool position to have.
I'm curious who the other team is. I think it's just one other team. I feel like Roberto made it pretty clear that it's just one other team.
Oh, really? Okay, there we go. That's why you got to go listen to that interview. I didn't know that.
That's the impression. I'll put it this way. That's the impression I got. Let me know in the chat if you got a different.
Okay.
The other name that we heard floating around, I think yesterday, Santiago Rodriguez.
I can't. They're all
out of Nacional in Uruguay.
What if we get all three?
So this is kind of. He's a player that I would love. I'm not 100% sure. I think you would, if you can stick him on that left side, playing that left winger, I think it's perfect. But he's a player that I think. So Barco in 2018, held on to the ball a lot. You thought he'd pull off a lot of good moves to get around players. Santi Rodriguez is that guy that'll do that stuff, and his highlights are basically a lot of that, where he's a lot of show. My hope is that it translates to MLS, and he doesn't get the physicality of MLS doesn't do him badly.
And he's with Nacional right now
yeah.
in Uruguay. Okay.
Peñarol and Nacional are the two big ones down there. Nacional is Peñarol.
And of course, you as a native.
My family's all Peñarol.
Peñarol.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Not Nacional.
How are they going to feel about this?
Oh, I don't know. I think they're going to be happy that a Uruguayan player is playing.
Fair enough.
United.
Good.
But
that's the right answer.
But no, he's a player. I talked to a reporter in Uruguay who mentioned that there's a $10 million buyout. It's technically termed a termination clause. Not a termination clause. What was it? It was a termination clause.
A release
clause, yeah.
Yeah.
But it was negotiable. I'm not sure what that means. I gotta think that I gotta think that if it's negotiable, that means Nacional is they're kind of bad financially. They're in a bad place financially. Maybe that's what the negotiation would be. Is maybe that instead of the 10 million, you give them 7 plus a 5% sell-on fee or something like that. I don't know. Something to that effect.
And then some quote unquote release clauses are just not actually release clauses.
It was mentioned. I saw it on Twitter, and then I actually asked the reporter himself, and he said, "Yeah, that's part of it as well, but that it's negotiable. The negotiable part of that
they're
is
saying it's got to be around 10 million. Is basically what they're saying.
So look, he looks like a good player. He looks like a good player. If you got a $10 million release clause, I got to think that they wanted to put themselves in a position where they were going to make some money off of this should he get plucked from Nacional. Yeah. He's a player that I think would be good. He's a kind of a smaller guy, quicker, good with his feet. And I think the one thing that Atlanta United is desperately lacking is a player. He's good in tight spaces. He's the anti-Tito.
He's good. You had to sneak something in about Tito, didn't you?
He's good in tight spaces, and I think that'll show. If you go look at his highlights, you can see. You're going to fall in love with him pretty quickly. And
I just love that, the profile of players you're looking at. These guys are 21, 22 years old, young, exciting players. These are the exact type of players that we wanted to see at Atlanta United. So I think,
and they're so dynamic. They're so versatile.
Yeah.
If you think about Villasanti and where he could play, same thing with Arzamendia, same thing with Santiago Rodriguez. Man, I can't talk today.
No, you're doing great because I don't even want to say the names, but the left back could absolutely he could absolutely that guy. He could absolutely play as your 10 attacking midfield player in MLS. Absolutely. And then obviously Villasanti is a guy that could, I think, we already discussed a few positions he could play through the midfield. And then with Rodriguez, the guy that can play on the left, the guy that can slide in. He had similar to Barco, who can play underneath the striker, but maybe is a little bit more of a prolific dribbler, whereas Barco is more of a passer. I think in some ways, again, that can help you slide guys into where they feel comfortable, doing the things they feel comfortable. And now you have more of a pure dribbler that you can play on that wing when you want.
You ready for a defender rumor?
Jeez.
This is 4. The 4th one.
I can't.
Fernando Mesa. Mesa is rock.
Oh, I forgot. This is like a whole 20. Oh, that's great too.
29-year-old Argentine playing with Necaxa. Previously played for Colo-Colo.
This was a whole 2 days ago.
2 days ago.
Hardly remember.
And he would be the like-for-like replacement. I got to think that they're waiting on the LGP announcement to officially to really do anything with Mesa. But he seems like he would be the like replacement for LGP. I think that he looks like a player that has really good timing. He like LGP, they're going to be very aggressive in terms of when they tackle, when they push forward, when they challenge a player. So it seems like they've gone after someone that's pretty close to what LGP gave you. Whether he's better or not, time will tell. But 29 years old, so definitely older. And I was talking last week about whether you'd want a veteran replacement for LGP next to Miles Robinson, presumably, or if you wanted someone that was young and then you could eventually sell off and do the Atlanta United model type of route on a player like that. And I'm kind of glad that it's someone that maybe can command more of a veteran presence on that back line, because if you think of who you might be bringing in, Franco Escobar, as much as I like him, he's not someone that I'm not big on Franco Escobar, but I don't see him as someone that's going to be a powerful leader on that back line. Miles Robinson could be eventually, but he's still too young to.
I just don't see, Miles Robinson's already the guy that you kind of bought low and sell high. You don't do that necessarily with both center backs. You need a like replacement for Perez and from day one.
Sure, but I think it's important to have a guy that's going to be a strong voice. And not that I have any idea what his personality is, but just the age alone, I think, is an important factor.
And his personality in general. I mean, everything we've heard, very quiet guy. And last year you had veteran leaders on that back line. You need someone that's true to organize the back four.
He's going to be more experienced than Miles Robinson. Miles Robinson might be a better athlete, might be a better player than Meza. Ultimately, I have no idea. I've never seen this guy play, so I'm not going to pretend like I know exactly who Meza is. But the age alone makes you think that he has more of a veteran presence, more of a veteran experience to playing the sport that can provide a lot of insight for Miles Robinson when he eventually gets to that point where he becomes that guy.
Absolutely.
And it may be 2 years away where he is that guy that's commanding and all that stuff. But what I don't see is Miles Robinson being a vocal guy this year.
No. I mean, you can't ask someone to be the type of personality that they aren't.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think that's a fair thing to do. And I think, a couple things you hit on is whether we get Meza or not. I think that two things that this transfer shows us for sure. The first one is with respect to the transfer itself. Meza is like for like replacement. Not saying he plays the same way, but in the sense that he'll slide right into for Perez into the back line. You're looking at a 29-year-old. Who else you linked with 20, 21, 22? There's a clear difference there because you're expecting the veteran to step in and play right away. The other thing is, like you said, Eric, you're definitely. It looks like Atlanta United are looking for a more veteran presence to step in and play right away, as opposed to a young player that maybe you have to suffer through some of the growing pains with earlier. So that's two. I mean, whether we get him or not, it sounds like a great fit. Can play right back as well, by the way. So another player that could play over there. I think we see the type of player that Atlanta United are clearly going for to replace Leandro Gonzalez Perez is a more veteran player that can step in and play right away.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this all kind of pans out. And this is why I kind of ask everyone to be patient, or at least appear patient. Because
I think most people are patient.
This thing it's going to come together.
The patient people are tweeting
it's going
a
to
lot.
come together.
So you're seeing your timeline is being more flooded than usual.
I know. It's going to come together. There's no reason to get upset. There's no reason to call out Darren. I think it's hilarious that Darren does the PG troll job on everyone that was begging for signings, begging for LGP to be announced. Which I'm sorry, it just doesn't make sense to me. Why? What difference in your life or in Atlanta and your Atlanta United fandom does it make if they announce LGP leaving today, tomorrow, next week, or when? It does not matter when it happens. It's going to happen. Relax.
Well, it matters. If we're doing this in 2 weeks, it'll matter because you're trying to get a replacement in. But it's a little early.
It's going to happen when it's supposed to happen. It can't happen any earlier than that. It's not like they're just waiting around and be like, you know what? Not today. Today's not a good day. We're not going to announce today. We could, but we're not going to announce
No, I mean, that's the way these things go.
It's not like they're washing a car.
It's not like we haven't seen this before. You know what I think it is, Eric? I think that the last off season was so short
that everyone wants to.
Yeah, we're in kind of the wrong cycle right now. We have a whole nother month right now. This much time passed between the last game of last year, of 2019, and now. If you had apply that same time period to our off season the year before, I think we'd already be into CCL at this point. So I mean, there's a lot more time I think that people realize.
I think the expectation is that they don't want fans don't want a repeat of what happened last year, and part of not allowing that to happen again is to get everyone in preseason camp, get everyone on the same page early on.
Yeah.
Right. Get everyone kind of acclimated to the team, to the newness of everything. Build those relationships, build those bonds, so that when CCL rolls around, you're not you don't look
still
like
figuring it out.
You don't look like what you did against Herediano. And I don't see that happening either way. No, because they're going to be more prepared going into it. And either way, you're going to have these moments where, as a big club, as a patient club, like Atlanta United is, the reason they're good, they could easily go pull the trigger on someone a lot quicker. And maybe it's not. Maybe hastily pull the trigger on that person and it's not the right
And
choice.
you see a lot of other MLS clubs do that.
Yeah, they do a lot of research. Clearly, do a lot of research because tell me you heard of these 3 names before last week.
So some of our listeners have, I know, but they're certainly
the
not
1%.
Yeah, and they're not names that move the needle.
Exactly.
It's their game that moves the needle, and it's their
it's the potential. It's the potential it's the potential that really moves that needle. That really drives the interest from the fan base. So you expect that Atlanta United knows what they're doing. Expect that they're doing everything purposely. They're not just kind of waiting around and randomly and haphazardly making decisions that don't make sense. Everything has its purpose. They're doing things with a plan. I'm in no way anxious that they don't have the players that they probably should have at this point, because I know that there's probably a bigger plan out there that they don't want to pull the trigger on someone that they don't feel fully confident about.
Of course.
You don't want a Barco 2018, which I don't know that was necessarily the front office fault. You don't want a pity 2019.
Well, I mean, you could be a lot worse than that. I mean, you look at some of the play, like Christian Coleman playing at Dallas and not even scoring like 2 goals in 2 seasons. You can do a lot worse than that. But I mean, yeah, fortunately, PT is.
If you want players, they can go redo. They can go do something like the redo of the Kenwin Jones experiment. They can go grab Chris McCann again. I mean, they can go grab players if you wanted to, but are they the right players? And it's going to take some time if they're the right players. You're going to take some time negotiating with these agents, with these teams, to get them for the right price, so that you later can benefit even more.
And there's money involved.
Otherwise.
It's not just the 2 teams, the agent, the player's family. There's a lot of moving pieces here, especially when you're talking about someone moving continents. In the case of the Cerro Porteño players, so
plus you have no idea what the players want. Again, Villasanti and Arzamendia might fully intend on playing with the U23 Paraguayan national team.
And who knows? Yeah, and
you have no idea that Atlanta has any control over that.
There's a million things. There's just no reason. I mean, look with Almiron last year. That was an example of a deal that went to the very, very last second. Wait a little bit before you start to panic about this stuff.
Paraguay opened up. I'm just double checking.
No, they're with the U23s.
No, I know. The 7th of January. That's when the window opened up.
Okay, so it's literally been 2 days. So I'm sitting here thinking it's been January 1st because that's the European window.
And then Uruguay is just for Rodriguez is the same day.
So in that sense, you say it takes time. The European window opened on the 1st. It took you a little over a week to bring in walks in. The South American window opened on the 7th. Maybe we see the same amount of time. And we're hearing the club say next week you're going to see some signings come in. So
just keep that into account for next year.
But again, I feel like most people are not are really not that panicky about this.
I got texts from my friends like, "What are we?"
I got texts from my friends.
I was like, "What are we doing? Are we signing players? What's going on?" Because I do understand to an extent the panic, because you saw more players leaving than you saw coming in, and so that created more holes for you to fill. By the way, speaking of one of the players that left, Justin Miram
had a
nice little goodbye, which I'm gonna miss him because he wasn't successful as often as I think most of us would like to be, but I like that he took on players 1v1 in the final third. I love that about him. I think that that's the same sort of player you get out of a Santi Rodriguez. I think that's the same kind of player you're going to get out of him. That player that's going to want to take a defender on 1v1, that's going to do what he can to get past him. That's good in tight spaces. I think Miram was that guy.
Yeah, and you might end up paying him less than Miram too.
Yeah.
So it just it made sense to me, and I think a big part what we're also seeing is you got a lot of these guys when Frank de Boer took over, that you either had guys that were holdovers from the Tata Martino era, or you had guys who were brought in kind of hastily to fill in depth positions before there was that, as I've said a few times, synergy between De Boer and the club. So you end up with these kind of holdovers like an Ambrose, like a LGP, and then you also see these signings like a Breck Shea, Pogba, Justin Miram, that are kind of made, because again, it took time to figure out what you wanted. Now you've had a whole season, a whole off season. You know who your manager is going to be the following year already.
Yeah.
So what do you see right away? You're linked with the exact type of player that Atlanta United is known for being linked with here early in the transfer window in January.
Did you hear the big names that Atlanta was linked to?
We've named a lot of them. Yeah, I mean, I know who it is, but this one is the most ridiculous.
I was just curious about what you thought about it.
About Luka.
Yeah.
Luka Modric. Well, first of all, it wouldn't happen until 2021.
I love the phrasing though, because everyone jumped on this like it was oh my gosh, Atlanta went after like a big fish. I believe the phrasing was expressed interest.
Well, you need an Agnew replacement. How about Luka Modric?
Expressed interest. But you know what that could be?
I think DC United.
That could be the agent reaching out to a bunch of MLS teams like, hey, would you be interested in
I think
Luka
that is what it is.
if he were available? And they went, yeah, we'd be interested. And Atlanta United was one of the teams that said, yeah, we'd be interested.
Or maybe the other way around.
And that's the extent of that.
Because you know his contract is up. You have MLS has a unique advantage with the older stars. They can still pay them what they want.
Atlanta United wants nothing to do.
He doesn't.
With a player like
he'd be a short-term replacement or a short-term piece. Right? Yeah. I mean,
I saw this and I was like, all right, well, I'm moving on because this is dumb.
That's up there with the Arjen Robben rumor, and then he retired like 2 weeks later. No, that's the worst one I think I've seen.
Let's see. Anything else we missed?
Jeez, man.
There was so much to cover.
Exhausting.
I feel like we sped through that way too quickly.
How would you? Because everything isn't kind of the same theme, right? I mean, it's transfer stuff, it's player additions.
Look, I like that. I like that we have substance to talk about. I like that.
How would you? Because it all kind of fits into the same genre. How would you wrap all this up in terms of where the club is? I mean, do you feel comfortable in the direction they're going right now? It sounds like we both.
I like that they're sticking to the model.
That is clear
in terms of what they want in players that they purchase. I'm glad that I have faith in the front office. I'm curious to see how Frank DeBoer. I'm curious to know what the influence Frank DeBoer had on these decisions, because you heard after after the Eastern Conference Final that conversations had been had. And that Carlos Bocanegra, one of the things he said was that Carlos Bocanegra knows more or less what the kind of players I'm looking for, but I think concrete has been established. And so I'm curious as to how these players would fit his system, what Frank DeBoer's system looks like in year two under players that have been bought under his regime, under his era. And so it'd be interesting to see how that all kind of plays out. But I'm confident, based off what I'm seeing, I'm confident in what they're going to get.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
I'm not nervous that it's not going to get done in time. Look, as much as I want them to win CCL, I know it's going to be tough. I don't think that this first matchup against Motagua is going to be anything like the first matchup or the first CCL matchup against Herediano. I think they're going to go into it knowing that they kind of have to redeem themselves for that terrible performance last year. And so with that in mind, I'm confident that that's what they're going to do. They're going to get by Motagua. I'm not going to say easily, but they're going to get by Motagua in a fashion that makes you confident going into the next round. After that, it's kind of a crapshoot because of who potentially you could be playing.
Well, if you get America, then
that's what I'm saying. I mean, Club America is
good luck.
Yeah, you're facing
you can't beat them.
You're facing a giant, and that's it's just tough.
Maybe they'll lose.
There's an expectation that okay, this could go either way. We're hopeful, and we'll take the lessons we learned from this match if we don't come out on top. But it's not like last year where you went into Monterrey and you're like, all right, well, this is a loss. But it's still kind of in that same vein where it's like, all right, anything could happen.
Yeah,
Motagua should be a win. Motagua, you should actually advance through. I'm not worried about that.
But you just feel, especially having the experience last year, I think you feel better about it. You know more what to expect. Then there was a bunch of contextual things that are your advantage compared to last year. Like we talked about the short off season. We talked about last year playing without Miguel Almiron.
That's the other thing. You're not losing a major piece to your puzzle when it comes to, and you're also not
attack.
And you're also not gaining a brand new coach and trying to implement an entire new system. Like there's so much different from last year already, even without the players that we don't have. Even with just rumors about players that Atlanta United's looking to purchase, there's so much has changed already. So much is different already just by entering 2020.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I mean, it's hard. I know we have our disagreements, but on this one, I mean, I think if you just look at who the club is linked with, it's the exact type of players you would want. Young, exciting left back, young, exciting center right back, young, exciting center mid that can, get forward and do things in the attacking third as well. Exciting left winger, Santi Rodriguez. I mean,
I'm happy for you that we're gonna get defensive depth.
Thank God.
I feel like that was your big.
I sat here all last January like we're gonna get a right back, we get a right back, we get a right back, and then poor Julian Gressel, although it didn't affect him somehow. But we were forced to play a back three. We were forced to play a back three because we didn't have a backup right back last year. It's crazy. It actually worked out great because Julian Gressel, but then you had to run him into the ground. I mean, and again, I think that I don't know what happened with that last year. That was one of the least Atlanta front office-esque things they've ever done. So it's no coincidence. I think it's one of the first things they've fixed in this transfer window going into 2020 and getting Anton Walks.
To be fair, they did have George Bello.
But that's left back.
Okay, you're right. Sorry.
There were no right backs. I have no
right.
idea what was going on last year at right back. But
you don't know. Look, maybe there's a lesson to be learned from that. So there's clearly a lesson to be learned from that.
Have a backup right back
from last year to this year. But maybe it's more when it comes to the transactions they were going after as well, because as we didn't get a right back.
You had a lot of resources tied up in getting that PT deal done. You're dealing with Miguel Almiron the whole time.
Maybe you got a little not distracted, but maybe you got a little overwhelmed and you couldn't manage to get a right back in time that would fit what you needed in terms of backup depth. This year they go into it a little bit differently, and maybe they did go after it and they just didn't pan out. That also happens.
I guess. I don't know. I don't want to go back in time. I mean, that's literally the one real head scratcher that the mistake they've made personnel wise for me is not having a proper right back on the
right now.
Franco Escobar.
The potential defenders for Atlanta in 2020 could be Brooks Lennon.
Yeah, I mean, they've right away brought in two players that can play right back. I think they realized that was a big goal for them. And then the guys you're with.
You got obviously Miles Robinson. And look, before the season started, we're talking about
Nielsen today.
Before we started, we're talking about 3-4 defenders max, and now we're talking about possibly 7.
It doesn't take long, Once you sign,
that's how quickly it can change.
Yeah. So I think again, we're looking at it's going to be a settled team, and I think it will be a settled team well before the end of the transfer window, and be a settled team well before leg 1 in Honduras.
You think there's a name that we haven't even heard of yet?
Absolutely, I do. Yeah. Absolutely, I do. And who knows if one thing we might start to see pop up as the window gets later on is I think you might see some Barco stuff start to pop back up.
Oh, for sure.
So we'll see what happens there. But yeah,
you know what? Maybe that's why he emphasized Carlos Bocanegra emphasized this. We expect him to be through preseason because they're probably going to want to after the first.
Oh, that's true. That's a little
UCCL matches. Maybe at that point they're like, maybe he shines, maybe he impresses. And well, actually, I don't know. The timeline.
That will be after the window, but that could be if you're going to sell him in the summer.
No, yeah, then I get. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. My guess, which is based on really nothing other than those Bocanegra quotes, is that I think Barco is here after the January window. But I think if there's that one could be one thing we start to see pop back up. And then I think it just takes one of these, because again, these players you're linked with from South America, it shows you the player profile you want. So I think if one of them falls through, there'll be another guy whose name we probably don't know who slides into their place that fits a similar type of player profile. But yeah, I think the main thing is trust the front office because they clearly are back to doing business, getting the right types of players that Atlanta United wants, and also I think Frank de Boer wants as well.
They also, I keep forgetting this actually happened, but they also had to hire Frank de Boer last year.
Yeah, that's true. No, there's a lot going on. They had a lot going on.
I forget. They had to hire. They had the leaving of a coach. They had to hire their own coach. They had to deal with the Miggy thing. They had to bring in Pity.
It's brutal.
I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, they had to go get everyone. They ended up.
And they didn't put out a backup right back.
That's what happens, man.
I guess
that's what happens. Anything else before we take off?
Oh, I guess I thought I would say the last thing is Atlanta United, who know what they're doing. Not a fan of U.S. club soccer and college soccer. It appears again linked with players that spent their prime development years outside of the U.S. If you think about it, with a player like Nielsen, 4 years in college, probably trained with a team. 3 to 4 months of college, 2-ish months in the summer if he played PDL. At most, he's practicing with team 6 months a year from age 18 to 22. Everyone in an academy, anywhere else, whether they be American or from anywhere else in the world, is training every single day. These college players are at a big disadvantage when they get out of college, and I think that's one of the reasons that I think Atlanta United, and I'm just speculating, but it might be one of the reasons that they lean towards getting guys that developed in a professional academy system that can understand how to be a professional right away. So hopefully we'll see maybe from him, maybe we'll, because of that academy development, they've spotted a Julian Gressel but hopefully not an Anderson Asiedu. Who knows?
Yeah.
We'll see. But I mean, overall, clear direction from the front office. So, and hopefully, when we're talking this time next week, we'll be talking about some more names signed to the roster.
Look, they hit on Julian Gressel, they hit on Miles Robinson, so they can miss a few on the
they
MLS
can miss for 20 years. You scored 2 All-Stars.
I don't want that to happen, Patrick. I want you to be
2 perennial All-Stars in the same draft.
I want you to be just as good, just as successful as Julian Gressel, as Miles Robinson. Let's just get you there at some point.
I do too, but yeah. I mean,
take your time too, because if you're going to get there,
Atlanta has already won the MLS draft.
All right. Make sure you follow us on social media at MOTS Podcast on Twitter, MOTS Podcast on Instagram. I'm at Eric G. Quintana on Twitter.
At JoshB914. And follow the Instagram account. It is, I know it wasn't super active recently, but we're getting it going now.
It's my New Year's resolution to make it more active, make it more.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people, it was very clear to them that you made a New Year's resolution to, but hey, got to do it. So
I woke up to 26 likes the other day. I was like, all right.
26 likes. Moving on up. All right.
Make sure you follow it on Instagram. We'll be putting stuff all the time now. Don't think it's a dead account.
Check out that Roberto Rojas interview there.
Yes.
It's great stuff.
Pretty good.
Great stuff.
Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't, and join us whenever we do record the podcast, because we stream it on YouTube live. So you can tag along and hit us up in the comments and tell me how dumb I am, or tell Josh how handsome he looks.
One of those two things happens a lot. I'm not going to say which one.
All right. Anything else? That's it? All right. That does it for us. Until next time, Atlanta.
Wow.
I'm tired,
So you led and ended with
I'm tired.
Thanks, y'all. Good night.